All right, it's time now to know what's on the front pages of the newspaper headlines. And I have with me in the studio lawyer and social development advocate Jide Ologun, as well as lawyer and public affairs analyst Tunji Abdulhameed. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Right. We head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the leadership newspaper. Sustained onslaught until terrorists are routed. Senate tells troops. Sustained onslaught until terrorists are routed. Senate tells troops. All right, you find details on the pages of the leadership newspaper. To the first news newspaper, exclusive. DKO uncovers 400 ghost ex-agitators in PAP's payroll. DKO uncovers 400 ghost ex-agitators in PAP's payroll. You find details of the story on the pages of the first news newspaper. To the Daily Sun now. 6 Nigerians, others named global terrorism sponsors. Abdurrahman Adu Musa, not our director. 9 Mobile. Abdurrahman Adu Musa, not our director. 9 Mobile is reacting to the development there. All right, to the Daily Trust now. Vicious ISWAP leader Al-Banawi killed. How he succeeded his father. Boko Haram founder Mohammed Yusuf led terrorist onslaughts on security forces. We are not aware of his death. Military situation dicey. Expert. To the national economy now. CBN to revolutionize economy with new financial hub. CBN to revolutionize economy with new financial hub. All right, to the front page of the Business Day now. Nigeria's power sector reforms yielding more cash than electricity. Nigeria's power sector reforms yielding more cash than electricity. Details on the pages of the Business Day. To this Nigerian newspaper now, $4.95 billion, euro 710 million euros, $125 million. Experts disagree over federal government's fresh loan request. To the Daily Times now. How federal government is sustaining economic growth in post-COVID-19 era. Finance Minister speaking. How federal government is sustaining economic growth in post-COVID-19 era. Finance Minister. To the Blueprint. Expert one as federal government seeks fresh $4.5 billion, 710 million euros, $125 million loans. All right, you find details on the pages of the Blueprint. All right, to the Vanguard newspaper now. Foreign loans to hit $45 billion as federal government bids to borrow $4 billion more. Buhari writes Senate for additional $4 billion, $4.54 billion, 710 million euros, $125 million loan. External loans rise 366% since 2015. Debt servicing now a burden. Analyst requires Buhari's lack of repayment plan. PDP blasts Buhari APC over fresh loan request. All right, to the Nigerian Tribune, still talking about the loans. Buhari seeks approval for fresh $4 billion, 710 million euros loans. President APC selling Nigeria, says PDP. To the Guardian newspaper, Buhari overlooks 33 trillion naira debt burden, 6 fresh 2 trillion naira loans. PDP economics kick as party urges National Assembly to probe alleged looting of loans. About 85% of matured loans are refinanced. Economists suggests you can take more when 80% of revenue goes into. You can take more when 80% of revenue goes into debt. Lagos to borrow 25 billion naira as Sanwo-Olu signs green bond market agreement. To the Punch newspaper now. Experts, others carpet National Assembly as Buhari plans for $1 billion, 710 million euros borrowings. Loans will reduce poverty, the president is speaking. Public debt rose from 12.12 trillion naira in June 2015 to 33.11 trillion naira in March 2021. Perpetual borrowing, lawmakers working against Nigerians' interest will account for their actions, says group. And to the front page of the News Direct, economic growth, Buhari orders banks to finance SMEs, renewable energy. Others says 8 million Nigerians benefiting from conditional cash transfer. CBN to launch Nigerian International Financial Center by 2022, releases 300 billion naira to 3.1 million smallholder farmers. All right. And to the Nation newspaper, battle for VAT collection shifts to Supreme Court. Rivers seeks to upturn status quo order. Bill passes second reading in Ogun. Gentlemen, let's begin from this story that is almost on all the pages of the papers this morning, talking about the president's request for to borrow more funds, $4 billion, 710 million euros borrowing, and reactions. This has been generating loads of reactions since this news came out yesterday, or when the letter was read at the floor of the National Assembly. And let's get your reaction, gentlemen. From the papers this morning, one of the papers was saying that the president is overlooking the 33 trillion naira debt burden we already have, and we are looking to borrow more. Jide.
You know, some experts in the system have been telling us that we are still within the comfortable threshold.
No, they are also still saying now that this is going beyond
of borrowing
what is required.
But I know that God says in Proverbs 22:7, that the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. And having quoted that, there is nothing wrong with borrowing if you use it judiciously.
Right.
And if today the report we have is that our total indebtedness is in the region of 33 trillion naira, as against around 12.12 trillion naira in 2015. Then if indeed we have judiciously engaged the borrowings, by now we should be the 6th richest country in the world. And I believe this is where the concerns are coming from. And it's like we have practically abandoned the internally generated revenue inlets. For example, NNPC that manages our oil resources, and invariably my president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces is a substantial minister over that ministry, is threatening zero remittance into the federation account.
Yes.
We spend about 80% of our resources on debt servicing. So we are in a very critical condition. But I have just come to the point where I must, I just allow myself to flow, while hoping that somewhere along the line there will be what we call wisdom of governance, because it appears that this regime may not be willing to consider feedback from the people. I think they have their own economic indices, and a wise man once said that blessed are the youth, for they will inherit a lot of indebtedness. So there are two ways to handle the nation: secure the future or mortgage the future. And I recall that in 2017, my president was in the 71st United Nations General Assembly in the USA, and he was speaking brilliantly how to take the country out of poverty, how to key into the sustainable development goals and stuff like that. And one would have expected that 4 years down the line, which is 2021 now, that we have some good reports to give. But best wishes, Nigeria. But
that's what he's saying. I mean, he's saying that the loans will reduce poverty. And from 2015 till now, I wonder if that is the case that we are seeing, because from the statement here, loans will reduce poverty. And are we also securing the future, like he seemingly pointed out? Let me come to you now.
Yeah, please, did he also tell us how the loan will reduce poverty? Because I'm not sure of that. When we are spending over 80% of our income to service debt, not pay back debt. We're not paying back, we're servicing it. Servicing means you are paying the interest on it. You have not even started paying the real loan. So I don't know when we are going to conclude paying that one. I hope by the time this government will leave power, all of us will not have been mortgaged. We have even been mortgaged already. all of us will be able to cope with the circumstance of the situation. You see, like my Ogara mentioned, there is nothing bad in borrowing. There is nothing bad. The most of the successful businessmen today live based on borrowing. Most of the people we call rich men today based on the borrowing from banks and whatever. They use it judiciously. That's why we are calling them. We are seeing it from what they are doing. You see, when we talk about borrowing, they will tell us the money is being used to develop infrastructure. That is the adjective they are using now. They will not break it down for you. They will not tell you what this infrastructure they are talking about. In other words, they will say railway, they will say road. All the time road, all the time railway. We have not been developing our other sector of the country. And you see, I am worried that we have a Senate or National Assembly that is not even concerned about the situation. They are only playing politics. You know, when you have the National Assembly, or let me say the leadership of the National Assembly, unlike what we see in the 8th Assembly, and that's why today I'm very convinced that the former Senate President, the Senator Bukola Saraki, was being victimized for becoming a Senate President at that time, because and for not allowing them to just run the country down. Because I remember there was a loan request brought to him, and he asked them, please, can you give us the details of this loan? To date, those details have not come, and that loan was not obtained. They were saying it was. How can you be acquiring loan without thinking of how the money will be paid back, without us seeing the effect or consequences of the loan you are acquiring? You see, they will tell me, Lord, I'll go through Lagos almost every time. You see the same. It's the same of the same. There are few things they've been done there. That cannot be that loan. That if it's that loan, I'm very sure. I'm sorry. It's not being used for anything. The rate they're talking about. How many? Let us have the details of what they've used the money for. Let's see the kilometer of the rate they've done. Let's see how much the cost of that rate. Let's see the road they've done. We have dilapidated health sector. We have the education that is not abandoned. We have some sporting set. We don't have any area that's been developed. How would the road alone and the so-called railway we change our life? I don't know. How are we going to pay this debt back? I think the government should think outside. This thinking of their own thinking outside the box is not the way to think outside the box. This is just putting us into poverty, not even moving us out of poverty, putting us into basic, and that we will not be able to pay till eternity. Except maybe they will do what they did. The Paris Club did to us during in 2006 when they waive or they dash us the money. I think our president and the government should think more, and they should stop this. They should go beyond the borrowing. They should reduce expenses and
cost of
governance.
This is something that we have been talking about. Would it ever see the light of day? Would the National Assembly agree to the demands of Nigerians with regards to cutting costs of governance? Because it had always gone back to them, reducing their monies, and so many talks have gone on with regards to this cutting cost of governance. If we are looking in that direction, would this see the light of day? Where or how do we approach it such that everybody accepts it?
Personalizing government, if the blood of concern flows in that body, I think we should consider the recommendations to cut down on cost of government. But over the years that has been discussed, and if by now we don't have the requisite response, it means we may not look in that direction. You also talk about mobilizing revenue internally. As we speak this morning, Ondo State has the second largest deposit of bitumen in the whole world. I think on a recent research, Nigeria fled enough gas to provide electricity for 841 million citizens. The gold deposit in Zamfara can earn that state about $2 billion annually. Recently, about half of the Tucano jets we got into the country cost us about $500 million. You can go on and on. How much did you spend on turnaround maintenance for moribund refineries?
Right. You
ask all these questions. So it's now about how you engage your resources. And by the way, let me bring something on the table. The UAE discovered oil in 1958. And today, that region is a hub of prosperity because
Absolutely.
they engaged the resources to generate an economic magnet hub that attracts wealth from across the world. And you can see that autopilot of prosperity. In fact, right now, they are the ones helping us to identify sponsors of Boko Haram.
Yes.
You see how they have gone. You talk about Singapore. Singapore, what are the resources, the natural resources in Singapore? But we have governance resources, good governance. And I think that makes the difference. We need to go back to the governance mindset in Nigeria. I think we have played this, backward sliding approach. It's as if the whole intention is just to come to the space, intimidate one another at regional level, suppress businesses. You see, for those who are monitoring, I go around and I see businesses crashing. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
You get to a supermarket that had a whole floor for restaurant, margin and shrinking, lock down the land borders, and now insurgency is an industry. But I'm glad that the government is now rising up to bombard they are bandits. And there is a failure of communication now. Now we are making case for the repentant Boko Haram criminals, that they are Nigerian citizens. Beautiful. We must reintegrate them, because in the engagement of enduring war, when they surrender, you have to give them fair hearing. But we have denied that there is no war in Nigeria. And let me ask a simple question, linking it up with the VAT war that is going on. Which region has introduced terrorism into this country? What value are you bringing to the country? And that is why I may say it now. Please go and sit down, have your meetings, and ask a simple question. If Nigeria splits in the future, it may not be now, what do we have in our region? Because I don't understand why God would have blessed a nation this much, and we have no business with poverty.
Right.
We have no business with poverty. And let's roll it back. It is the responsibility of the government to bring prosperity to the people.
Absolutely.
Read section 14 to section 17 of Nigerian Constitution 1990 as amended. I keep saying it. If we implement it up to 60%, Nigeria should be the top richest country in the world. So if we are in poverty, it's by choice. And it's very painful. But I think some elements just want to suppress this nation. And God will not allow it.
All right.
God will not allow it. What we deserve is joy in this land. And we are coming out to express ourselves. I own everything I'm saying here. Nigeria is the greatest country in the world by resources. But we need resourceful leadership.
Resourceful leadership. Your final word on this, Tunji. I initially wanted us to talk about this battle for VAT collection, which has shifted to the Supreme Court. But let's just stay with this matter, talking about our borrowing.
You see, the borrowing has become normal in our system now. I think I'm very sure in the next 3 or 4 months or so, by the time the new budget will come up, they will be talking about another borrowing. And I think it's high time the government decide to do away with borrowing. We can make do with what we have, and we can have enough prosperity with what we have. We have a situation whereby those in government see their position as a way to make themselves happy, enjoy themselves, give themselves whatever they want. You see, when we talk about National Assembly law, how much is National Assembly collecting from our budget? 120-something billion out of about trillion. We neglect to talk about the ministries, the presidency, the whatever. We only concentrate on National Assembly. Yes, I'm not saying what they are earning is not too fat. It is. Let's reduce the cost of governance. That is the most important thing. We are under this government. We have been told that we have never generated we have never had an internal generated revenue just like this before. That we are making so much money from internal generated revenue. We are making money from in fact, recently the NNPC that said is declaring zero, what's it called? Remittance. Is declaring profit. I don't understand it. I'm not an economist, but I don't. It's confusing to me. You are saying you cannot remit money because there's nothing.
You're talking about profit.
Declaring profit. You see, we are in a country where we like to deceive ourselves. We like to play politics with everything, and we are now in a situation whereby most people, most agencies, MDAs, those who are there see themselves as part of the government in power, not a party in power. They want to play
basically
politics with
corruption.
everything. Yes, exactly. They play politics with everything. They want to align with everybody in power, and that's why you see some governor who is supposed to be on his own in his own state talk about, I want to go and assist Mr. President to achieve it. He has not. He's not be able to achieve his objective in his state. He's going to the federal to go out help Mr. President. He has not helped himself. So that's what we have. We like to play to the gallery. We like to play an eye service game because we see the presidency
then the
as
people
the alpha
have a
and
role
omega.
to play too. To
we are not helping
call
at all.
this our representatives, those in power, in positions of power, to call them to order.
Yeah,
to remind them the essence for which they were
we have
elected.
We have that duty, but unfortunately, most of us, particularly the elites, they see governance as it doesn't concern me. That is for those for the ropes. It's for the talks. It's for this and that. You see, until we realize that, look, this governance of a team, these policies of a team, is for all of us. We need to be involved. We need to know who and who will lead us, and that is why we need to walk our talk. We need to talking will not do anything. We need to do more.
All right, so we'll leave the conversation here now. Thank you so much, Jide Ologun, as well as Tunji Abdulhameed, for your time on the program this morning. Thank you.
God bless Nigeria.